believe I am live. And if that is the case, welcome to today's edition of Con Salsa special program from 3 to 5 instead of our usual 4 to 6 p.m. hour. The reason for that is my two guests can only join me from 4 to 5 p.m. And also, Divina and I will be leaving immediately after this program to go enjoy the music of Jazz Boricua at the Arlington Street Church here in the city of Boston. This is program number 183 that we've been doing live on Facebook and YouTube since COVID back in March of 2020. And I want to thank you for being part of this experience every single weekend, and also for continuing to be part of the Con Salsa family on Saturday nights on WBUR 90.9 FM in stereo. And so we have music, we have conversation, and we have you. Share this with your friends so that way they can be part of the conversation and the programming for today. We're on Facebook and YouTube. One of my field producers right there is Ryan Newfall. He says, I see you and hear you. And he says, wow, 183. Yes, sir. We've been doing this for quite some time now. And so thank you. So let's go straight into some music. Bienvenidos a la edición número 183 del programa Con Salsa en vivo por Facebook y YouTube. Yo soy José Mazó desde la ciudad de Boston, Massachusetts. Hoy un programa especial de 3 a 5 en vez de la hora acostumbrada de 4 a 6, debido a que mis invitados, Miguel Zenón y Luis Perdomo, solamente pueden estar con nosotros durante la hora de 4 a 5, y también que Divina y yo salimos de inmediato cuando terminemos este programa a disfrutar de la música jazz boricua, quienes se presentan en el Arlington Street Church aquí en la ciudad de Boston. Así que vamos a la música y luego los comentarios. Let's go right to the music. And we're going to start off with a new one by one of our dear friends, Guasábara. They have a new album titled Guasábara Soy Yo, and we're going to hear a selection from this album titled No Dejes Que Se Caiga. No La Dejes Caer. I'm sorry. No La Dejes Caer. Don't Let It Fall. Con Salsa. Right here, live.
Gózalo a tu manera, vacílala como quiera, así es mi salsa, por ende otra manera, no te quedes afuera, no la dejes caer, no la dejes caer, no la dejes caer, no la dejes caer. Esto no es impresionismo, mucho menos egocentrismo, seguimos buscando, estudiando, innovando, pa' que no suena lo mismo. No la dejes caer, no la dejes caer, no la dejes caer, no la dejes caer. Que no se caiga, pon de tu parte, deja la crítica y el alarde, y sé decidido, no seas cobarde, pa' que la salsa siga pa'lante. No la dejes caer, no la dejes caer, no la dejes caer, no la dejes caer. Para muestra un botón, Guasábara trae este son de borinquen, echa pa' acá. Para que diga que la salsa se va a acabar, respetando la tradición con un poquito de evolución y este sonido sensacional. Para que diga que la salsa se va a acabar, y no se acaba, no se termina, si donde menos te imaginas hay una banda de salsa y está pegada. Mientras yo quiera cantar y tú quieras bailar, sube el volumen a la salsa, tú ves, vamos a gozar. Viejo, estos caballeros.
Chacha Gabriel, para que goce, Chacha Gabriel.
Y si por casualidad a ti te interesa, a mí me llaman Jimmy, el hijo de Teresa.
Chacha Gabriel, para que goce, Chacha Gabriel.
No, 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 no me pare la rumba ahora, porque viene Alfredito Valdés Jr. Alfredo Valdés Jr. Anda. Este ritmo tradicional.
Te traigo para bailar, ritmo bien rico y tradicional.
Con estos gigantes que aquí se encuentra mi gente, gózalo, Pablo, Chucho y Vicente.
Aquí te traigo para bailar, ritmo bien rico y tradicional.
No, 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 vamos allá. Oye, ese es un trombón, ¿ok? Como dice Mario Kendo, trombón criollo. ¡Ay! ¡Ay!
Jimmy toca el trombón, lo toca rico y bien sabroso.
Oye, el que toca el trombón se llama Jimmy, pero el que está cantando también se llama Jimmy. ¡Ay!
Y sigue la salsa con Salsa y José Mazo. Y sigue la salsa con Salsa y José Mazo.
Bueno, mi gente, ahí escuchamos al gran Jimmy Bosch con el fenecido Jimmy Sabater en las vocales, Chacha Gabriel. El fenecido Chocolate Almenteros, Alfredo Chocolate Almenteros, tremendo trompetista cubano, que había tocado con Félix Chapotín, como también con el gran Eddie Palmieri en el solo de trompeta. Mauricio Smith de Panamá, que en paz descanse, en la flauta. Y el fenecido Joe Santiago en el bajo. Alfredo Valdés Hijo en el piano. Luis Bauzón en el bongo. Tremenda música por parte de él, nuestro amigo Jimmy Bosch. Y comenzamos con Guasábara, su más reciente propuesta musical. Guasábara soy yo, en homenaje a su fundador, el gran José Lugo, que en paz descanse, pianista extraordinario, también arreglista y compositor, quien falleció hace unos años atrás, pero su legado musical continúa por medio de su hijo y otros músicos, incluyendo Pablo Padín, con esta propuesta titulada Guasábara soy yo. Y no la dejes caer, la canción que escuchamos, que no dejes caer la salsa, es lo que ellos piden. Bien, nuestros invitados para hoy estarán con nosotros dentro de unos 45 minutos, el saxofonista Miguel Zenón, como también el pianista Luis Perdomo. Ambos estarán aquí en la ciudad de Boston el próximo sábado, día 20, en una presentación en el Regatta Bar a las 7:30, con música de su más reciente propuesta musical, el arte del bolero volumen 2, ganador de un Grammy. Y estará una presentación a las 7:30 el sábado que viene en Regatta Bar. So our two guests for this afternoon will be joining me in about 45 minutes. They're renowned pianist and saxophonist, the one and only internationally acclaimed duo, composer, saxophonist, educator, cultural activist Miguel Zenón, and pianist Luis Perdomo. They will be performing next Saturday, April 20th at the Regatta Bar in Cambridge, a 7:30 show. And it'll be music from the Grammy Award-winning CD El Arte del Bolero Volume 2, which won them the Grammy for the Best Latin Jazz Album. It's a continuation of their first album of this type, titled El Arte del Bolero Volume 1. And so I'm looking forward to our conversation in about 45 minutes or so. In the meantime, let's enjoy some more music. Thank you for being part of this programming, the Salsa family. Please share this with your friends throughout social media so that they can join us this afternoon for this very special program, which is from 3 to 5 p.m. And let's go to some great music from Cuba, Los Bambán.
Mi son tiene una razón, rica en su naturaleza. Mi son tiene una razón, rica en su naturaleza. Cuando un sonero lo expresa, cantamos de que andamos. Y ya. Que andamos. Y ya. Que andamos. Y ya. Andamos. Y ya. Que andamos. Y ya. Que andamos. Y ya. Que andamos. Y ya. Que andamos. Y ya. Esta noche pa' meterle. Ay, yeah. Vamos a la calle como es. Ay, yeah. Pa' que mueva la cintura. Ay, yeah. Ay, bailalo en un solo pie. Ay, yeah. Bailalo sin miedo. Ay, yeah. Ya tú sabes cómo es. Ay, yeah. Dale hasta abajo sin miedo. Ay, yeah. Dale hasta abajo otra vez. Ay, yeah. Y súbete sol como se oye. Echa eso pa' acá. Esta noche nos vamos a fuego. Mami, ¿sabes lo que te digo? Y súbete sol como se oye. Echa eso pa' acá. Que esta noche nos vamos a fuego. Mami, ¿sabes lo que te digo? Y que andamos. Que andamos. Que andamos. Andamos. Y andamos. Que andamos. Y andamos. Que andamos. La noche pa' meterle. Ay, yeah. Vamos a la calle como es. Ay, yeah. Pa' que mueva la cintura. Ay, yeah. Bailalo en un solo pie. Ay, yeah. Bailalo sin miedo. Ay, yeah. Ya tú sabes cómo es. Ay, yeah. Dale hasta abajo sin miedo. Ay, yeah. Dale hasta abajo otra vez. Ay, yeah. Y súbete sol como se oye. Echa eso pa' acá. Esta noche nos vamos a fuego. Mami, ¿sabes lo que te digo? Y súbete sol como se oye. Echa eso pa' acá. Que esta noche nos vamos a fuego. Mami, ¿sabes lo que te digo? Y que andamos. Que andamos. Que andamos. Andamos. Y andamos. Que andamos. Que andamos. Ahora tú sabes que andamos. Guilladísimo. Guillermo de Kun. ¿No ahora me? Fancy. Granola con cranberry. Berry. Aceitoso que ni más sola. Esto a nivel de roles. Ya tú sabes. El pirulaco de roletilla. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
The sounds of Yo Motor on the cuatro guitar from Puerto Rico. His album Celebremos Navidad, Celebrate Christmas. The late Ralph Irizarry and timbales. The late Jorge González and bongo. Bobby Allende and tumbadora. Sangre Boricua blood. As we continue the programming for this Sunday. En el trasfondo, el sonido de Yo Motoro, que en paz descanse, en el cuatro puertorriqueño. Felicidades Ralph Irizarry en los timbales. Felicidades Jorge González en el bongo y campana. Y Bobby Allende en la tumbadora. La selección Sangre Boricua del disco Celebremos Navidad. Acabamos de escuchar la propuesta de Pirulo y la Tribu. Guillao de su disco La Calle Linda 4, Salsa y Saoco. Y antes de eso, la timba cubana. Comenzamos con los Bambán, Formel y los Bambán, Samuel Formel, el timbalero. y el que toca la batería, hijo de Juan Formel, quien fue fundador junto a César Pupi Veroso de la orquesta reconocida como la más innovadora durante la época del songo y la timba, los Bambán. Escuchamos de su más reciente propuesta musical, Modo Bambán. La selección canta La Ceiba, tremenda canción por parte de este grupo musical, una de mis canciones favoritas, Canta La Ceiba. Y luego escuchamos Disco Azúcar, Pupi y los que son de su disco Pupi el Buena Gente, que paz descanse, tremendo pianista, compositor, arreglista y también director de su propia banda, como también fue fundador junto a Juan Pomel de los Bambán, y su banda tocó para el aniversario de mi programa Con Salsa, celebrando los 40 años o 35 años de Con Salsa hace unos 10 años atrás. Así que los recordamos con mucho cariño. Luego escuchamos Pirulo y la Tribu, Calle Linda 4, Salsa y Saoco, la selección Guillao. Y tenemos saludos por aquí. We've got some greetings. My dear friend Jose Arroyo and Kim, they're listening to the show. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Desde Brasil, un país tropical, Rio de Janeiro. Ronaldo Isaac, gracias a ti. And from Kentucky, I've got Joe Lucinda Lopez tuning in. And everyone else, wherever you might be, let us know where you're tuning in from. Please share this with your friends through social media. Let them know I'm here every Saturday from 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. Today is a very special program from 3 to 5 because my two guests, saxophonist Miguel Zenón and pianist Luis Perdomo, can only be with me from 4 to 5. So therefore, we did the program an hour earlier instead of the usual 4 to 6. Today is 3 to 5 o'clock. They'll be joining me in about 30 minutes or so we can have a conversation and hear some good music off their latest album, Grammy Award-winning CD titled El Arte del Bolero Volume 2, The Art of the Bolero Volume 2. And next weekend, Sunday, I'm very pleased and honored to have as my guest the pianist Michel Camilo. He'll be joining me for a conversation and some great music. He'll be performing at the Regatta Bar as well the following weekend, Friday and Saturday, the 27th and 28th, for a solo performance, 2 shows every single night, Friday and Saturday, at the Regatta Bar at the Charles Hotel in Cambridge. El próximo fin de semana, nuestro invitado será nada más y nada menos que el legendario pianista dominicano Michel Camilo, que estará con nosotros el próximo domingo de 4 a 6. Y el otro fin de semana que le sigue, el 27 y 28, estará aquí en la ciudad de Boston, tocando una presentación solo en el piano en el Regatta Bar en el Hotel Charles, aquí en la ciudad de Cambridge. Tenemos saludos por aquí. Pedro Bonilla, mi hermano, saludos a ti. Y de nuevo, nuestro pésame por el día de tu abuelo, el gran Bobby Serrano. Siempre será un gran ser humano recordado en mi corazón y en mi alma. Pedro Bonilla, muchas gracias. También tenemos saludos por aquí para Luisito Salcero Mayor, que desde Brasil también está en sintonía. Gracias a ti, mi hermano, por ser parte de la programación esta tarde de hoy. Todos ustedes que estén en sintonía, por favor, déjenos saber dónde están, para que nos dejen saber por medio de un saludo y también intercambien sus amistades. Déjenles saber que estamos aquí. Please share this with your friends. Let them know we're here. And for the last 49 years, we've been celebrating Con Salsa every Saturday night on WBUR. You can still tune in every Saturday night on 90.9 FM, starting at 10 p.m. until 3 o'clock in the morning. And you can hear us on the web, WBUR.org. And now, for those of you who missed the show, you can hear the replay on demand of the program. So if you missed my show last night, go to wbur.org/consalsa. And when you get to that page, touch the page that says tune in to the latest edition of Con Salsa, or listen to the latest edition of Con Salsa. When you hit that, it'll give you the button for you to hit, and you can hear all 5 hours of the programming. You can hear it all 5 hours at one time, or you can hear 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever you wish. But you've got 5 hours of Con Salsa every single day now if you miss me on Saturday night. And if you hear me on Saturday night, you just want to repeat it, by all means, listen to it. I welcome you to continue to listen to it. And share your thoughts. Give me your thoughts with regards to the ability of being able to hear Con Salsa on demand. All right? So don't forget, it's wbur.org/consalsa. It's going to take you to my page, and on that page it says tune in to the latest edition of Con Salsa, and just follow the instructions, and you'll be able to hear all 5 hours of the program. Tenemos saludos por aquí también para, perdón, dije que era el abuelo, el tío de Pedro Bonilla, Bobby Serrano, quien fue quien falleció. Vamos a continuar con más música aquí en la onda de la salsa. Escuchemos.
que cuando pasa frente a mí se alegra de su negrura todo el corazón. Las caras lindas de mi raza prieta tienen de llanto, de pena y dolor. Son las verdades que la vida reza, pero que llevan dentro mucho amor. Somos la melaza que ríe, la melaza que llora. Somos la melaza que ama, y en cada beso bien conmovedora. Por eso vivo orgulloso de su colorido. Somos betún amable de clara poesía. Tienen su ritmo, tienen melodía, las caras lindas de mi gente negra. ¡Ecua! La cara linda de mi gente negra. Te digo, tienen de llanto mucha melodía. Te digo que tienen belleza y también tienen poesía de la bien linda. La cara linda de mi gente negra. Caritas lindas de gente negra que lo hizo tengo un montón. La cara linda de mi gente negra son un vacilón. La cara linda, qué lindas son. La cara linda de mi gente negra. Somos, te digo, la melaza que ríe, que canta y que llora, y en cada vez son bien conmovedora y cautivadora. La cara linda, miro qué lindas son. La cara linda de mi gente negra. Te digo que en Portobelo, Panamá, yo vi la cara más bella y pura, y es por eso que mi corazón se alegra de su negrura. Esa sí que es linda. Y yo la vi. La cara linda de mi gente negra. Qué lindas son. Ecua. Dile. Pero qué carita más linda, Oye. La cara linda de mi gente negra. Óyeme, pero qué bonitas son, lindas son, chulas son, bonitas son, lindas que son, lindas como tú verás, así son. Caritas lindas como aquellas que te dije son un vacilón, un riquito vacilón, con un corazón rico de melón. Para todas mis caritas lindas, dile Jenny Rivas. Lindas que son, lindas son. Qué lindas, qué chulas que son, bonitas que son, bien bonitas, chulitas que son, qué lindas son. Caritas lindas son. Lindas que son, pero qué lindas son, lindas son. Guavea, dile. Oye, para mis caritas lindas de la calma, las caritas lindas ahí abajo de la perla, mis caras lindas de Lloren Torres y las caritas lindas de Loíza, llegaron los de la L, la tribu. Tú sabes. Qué lindas son, qué chulas son, qué lindas son mi carita.
Linda, son lindas.
La cara linda de mi gente negra, siempre de corazón. Gracias, Ismael Rivera, por este gran himno. ¡Que viva Maelo! Requete linda. La tribu. Hacer un trato mientras yo afino mi camo. Prepárame mi comida, no te me pongas brava, no me tires la bendita. Si tú eres la que me mata, sé que yo soy tu cosita. Venga, abrázame mi mango, acércate mi bombón. Si esta noche es tuya, te traigo una dosis de amor. El otro día me pediste un poquitico de mi sabor y sabes que lo único que quiero es tocar mi tambor y que se forme el rumbo. Oh, mamá buena, mamá buena, mamá buena. Oh, mamá buena. Los niños van a la escuela a estudiar. Oh, mamá buena. Y que se forme la gozadera. Oh, mamá buena, mamá buena, mamá buena. Le di duro a mi tambor y creo que se va a romper.
because you're like that. Pedrito Martinez. You saw that picture of those musicians that were with Pedrito. Cito Lorel, graduated Berklee College of Music from Panama on trombone. David Sanchez and Miguel Zenón, invited guests on saxophone. Etienne Charles, you heard him on trumpet. I think Sean Jones was also on trumpet on that particular selection. Afina El Arroz, which concluded the set. Prior to that, you heard the new version of Paula C. from their Grammy Award-winning CD El Arte del Bolero Volume 2. Luis Perdomo on the piano, Miguel Zenón on the alto sax. And before that, you heard Miguel's version of Las Caras Lindas. And we also heard El Tribu de Abrante doing their version of Las Caras Lindas, written by the great Tite Correa Alonso, Catalino Tite Correa Alonso, the great Puerto Rican, Afro-Puerto Rican composer from Llamo, Puerto Rico, who was raised in Santurce, and the great Ismael Rivera, known as El Sonero. Back in 1969, here in the United States, folks were saying, "I'm black and I'm proud, say it loud," to James Brown. In 1978, all of us were saying, "We are black and we are proud porque somos las caras lindas de la gente negra." And with that, I'm going to welcome my two guests. But first, before I do, some quick shout-outs. Saludos bien rapidito por aquí. David Cantrell, as always, tuning in from Tucson, Arizona. Tenemos saludos también de parte de Manuel Castrillo Freites. Luis Perrero, vaya mi hermano, qué abrazo para ti y tu familia, como siempre. Un saludo para ti también, qué alegría que estés bailando a la música. Elisa Baker, thank you for tuning in. And from Costa Rica, Elisa Baker, one of our good people. They're in the house. And this last note, my Cristina is now learning the saxophone. It's exciting, Cristina being her daughter. So I'm glad to hear that your daughter is learning how to play the saxophone. That's good news. And with that saxophone being the introduction, at least the appropriate way of introducing my two guests, I'm excited. I've had them on the show before. And when we last spoke, it had to do with El Arte Bolero Volume 1, and now they've come with El Arte Bolero Volume 2. They need no introduction, but I want to introduce them anyway, because they are renowned figures, luminaries in our music. Miguel Zenón, Grammy winner and Guggenheim and MacArthur Fellow, one of the select group of musicians who has been able to balance all these great forms of music in so many different ways, being innovative and still maintaining the tradition. Groundbreaking and influential for his generation. And of course, he's also someone, having been born in San Juan, who now has made his living throughout the world, but finds himself living in New York. But he travels and comes to Boston, because in Boston, he is now a faculty member in the Music and Theater Arts Department at MIT, as well as a current visiting scholar for harmony and jazz composition at the Department of Berklee College of Music. Other dear friend, Luis Perdomo from Venezuela, another Grammy Award-winning pianist, composer, arranger, and educator, came to New York in the early 1990s and has played with so many great bands, including Robbie Coltrane, David Sanchez, Jerry Gonzalez, Fort Apache Band, and he also is an educator, because from time to time you will see him here in the city of Boston at Berklee College of Music. So with that, I want to introduce and welcome to the program this afternoon my two very special guests, Miguel Zenón and Luis Perdomo. Saludos y bienvenidos ambos. Miguel, what a great pleasure. Qué alegría verte. Luis, igual, qué alegría y felicidades por el reconocimiento del Grammy para esta propuesta, el Arte del Bolero Volumen 2. Pero primero, antes que nada, gracias por estar con nosotros.
Gracias a ti, José. Un placer siempre.
Gracias, José. Siempre un placer hablar contigo.
Qué alegría. Pues, last time we spoke, la última vez, fue con relación a la propuesta El Arte Bolero Volumen 1. Vamos a poner en contexto cómo fue que salió ese disco para entonces entender cómo es que nace el Arte Bolero Volumen 2. Miguel, ¿por qué no empiezas dándole un poco de explicación a la gente cómo fue que se creó ese primer disco, el Arte Bolero Volumen 1?
Claro. Mira, quizá voy a hablar un poquito en inglés, un poquito en español.
Sí, señor, sí.
So the first volume of El Arte del Bolero, we actually recorded during the pandemic. It was kind of sort of an accidental recording. We were doing a stream for one of those, remote concerts, and we had some spare time. And I mentioned to Luis beforehand, I was like, if we have some spare time, maybe we could just kind of record a couple of things that we could use later down the road, maybe for a different stream or for something else, Back in pandemic days, you were always trying to find ways to stay creative and with the streams and stuff. So we kind of talked via email, what are some tunes that we could play, some things that we just kind of discussed them and kind of run them real quick at the venue where we recorded this, which was the Jazz Gallery here in New York City. And we kind of did it, as a way of kind of having it in the can. It was all obviously just one take. Everything we just kind of played like a show.
Mm-hmm.
And then when listening back, I felt that we had captured something that folks could enjoy and that we could share with the listener, and shared it with Luis, and he agreed. So we decided to release it then, in the sort of like at the tail end of the pandemic, as a way of, having something out there, something that was connected to, of course, the idea behind all this is really recording music that's really connected to us.
Mm-hmm.
Luis and I, both of us, we've been involved in the jazz scene for a long time, but we are also Latin American musicians, bringing our own personality into the jazz world, and this music is very much part of what we are. This music that we grew up listening to through our parents and grandparents, and it's such an important part of the everyday cultural display on both of our countries, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, all over Latin America. So we really wanted to capture the idea of what it would be like to just kind of put these tunes within the prism of a jazz context, and just use them as springboards to improvise and do what we usually do, in a jazz format. And that first album was really well received. It was also Grammy nominated, and all that stuff. So we started playing the music a bunch. And usually what happens, Luis and I, we've been playing together for a long time. Usually what happens is, like, we'll release an album and we'll play the music from the album, but then we start playing new stuff because we, okay, let's try some new stuff. So once we had some new stuff, I was like, why don't we just kind of go and do another one? It was kind of like that kind of transition. The idea was always the same, really just to kind of explore the songs from a jazz format, and also in a really relaxed environment. A lot of the
Mm-hmm.
music that I make, especially my own records, is like really arranged, like a lot of really composed and produced music. This was like kind of the opposite. We just kind of picked tunes and went in and played, like
Mm.
just playing like if we were playing at home. So that was really the idea.
So this was a very organic recording both times. And the first album, just so people know, included Como Fue, Alma Adentro, Este Hastio, La Vida es un Sueño, Que Te Pedí, y Juguete, classic songs from the Latin American songbook, which interpreted in a dual format give it a very special feel because, as you say, you're improvising. You're not reading a chart. You're just playing off each other in a way in which we hear your alto sax and we hear Luis playing the piano. So now we segue to this El Arte Bolero Volumen 2. Do we go with the same mindset? Let me just pick some songs, or did you do a more concerted effort of defining which would be the songs? ¿Cómo fue que llegaron a quiénes eran los temas? ¿Cuáles eran los temas? Porque son temas que son icónicos en la música latinoamericana. En la oscuridad, Paula C., que escuchamos en la soledad, Motivos, Caballo Viejo, Mucho Corazón, Silencio.
Yeah, I'll let Luis chip in.
Well, yeah, for this recording, yeah, I guess it was kind of like the same, because there's so much music that we could do like 20 records, and still have music left to play. And but I think like what we were trying to do in this particular record is it was actually expand on the nationality of the composers. Not only stay within Cuba, but go all the way from like Mexico all the way to Argentina. You know, and a lot of this music is, some of it has been played in salsa um, standards. Even though they might not belong to that genre. But like for example, the songs like Caballo Viejo has been done like so many times, very different from the original. So we were like, okay, let's just play that, and then we just did it, in our style, I guess, more like in with the jazz frame.
Mm-hmm.
But it
Mm-hmm.
was the same concept, no rehearsal, just very minimum talk about it. Maybe like talk about the key, and I maybe a little bit some things about the arrangement, but very minimal, very minimal.
Yeah,
Because
and
we,
I want to point out that when we say no rehearsal, it doesn't mean that we don't like to rehearse. It just it just means that in the case of this songs in particular, when we pick the repertoire, like Luis mentioned, like we just basically just talking and saying, "Oh, how about this song? How about this song that's such and such recorded? Oh, this version like in this key." So we just kind of talking and picking repertoire just by talking. And then when we go play, basically it's basically songs that we know already just from listening to a bunch of recordings, a bunch of different versions. We share a lot of the same interests. So when we go play, it's like almost like it's already kind of rehearsed in our
Mhm.
head. We
Mhm.
know kind of the direction we want to take the songs.
So let's use Paula Se as an example. Paula Se, which was recorded, of course, by Ruben Blaze and with violins and everything of that nature. His most recent version is a big band with Roberto Delgado. Then you take it and you bring it down and share it as if it's a lovely bolero story of love between Ruben and Paula Campbell, which is a very different story that he sings when he sings it with a big band or he sings it, with Son de Solar. And that gives it a very intimate sound at the same time, an intimate story, a narrative that's very different than what we're used to hearing. Is that am I learning something new or am I just interpreting what you already had in mind?
No, no, I mean that's sort of the perfect example of what we were talking about. And so with Paula Se, Luis had already played it a little bit on his own as a trio. Is that right, Luis? Like you had you
Yes.
you
Mhm.
you have with his own trio, so he kind of had a framework for it. And once we started talking about, like Luis mentioned, we are trying to branch out. Or where else can we look besides Puerto Rico and Cuba for repertoire? Let's look at Mexico. Let's look at Venezuela. Let's look at Panama. And obviously with Panama, you have to talk about Ruben Blades. So we started thinking, about, okay, what can we do? And Paula said he already had a version, so we started kind of messing with the version that he already had, kind of creating sort of like a head arrangement. Oh, we'll start like this. We'll do start like this, and then we'll add this. And it was Luis's idea actually to add the intro from the recording. So what Luis did, he went back and listened to the intro from the original version, which was Luis Ramirez was the arranger. Is that right?
Yes, it was Luis Ramirez.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Ramirez. So Luis was like, yeah, I'm just going to orchestrate the original intro on the piano, and we'll use it as an intro for the arrangement that we're making. Then we created a form where we could improvise with like a little vamp at the end. Then we created this little space at the end where I play by myself. Then Luis joins. Then we had the coro. It was like all kind of like we probably did it. We probably played it. I would say 2 or 3 times with different versions of the arrangement before we ended up with what we have now. Just kind of
Mm,
stuff out and
mm.
say, okay, let's instead of doing that, let's try this. Let's instead of stopping there, let's keep going and try this. Kind of like that.
I love it. I love it. Por aquí tenemos saludos para ti de una persona muy especial que ustedes quieren y
Hey,
reconocen,
Oh
reconocido.
yeah.
Eggy Catri, un saludo para todos. Gracias, Eggy, por ese saludito. Y también otro más, de nuestro querido David
yeah.
Rosado Cuba.
Okay.
Saludos para todos de parte de David Rosado Cuba. Su hijo se gradúa, David Antonio, se gradúa ahora en mayo
Lo acabo de ver
de
el otro
Berkeley.
día ahí en Berkeley. Tremendo.
Sí, vamos a gozar de eso. Miguel y Luis, el hecho de que en este caso le otorgan a ustedes el reconocimiento como el mejor disco Latin Jazz, ¿es porque la música es latina o porque es jazz? Porque cuando yo escucho el disco, es música número uno. O sea, I can't put a category. I saw like, I found it interesting that they were recorded at, or they would state it as the best Latin jazz album because I said, okay, is it that they're giving it the title Latin jazz because it's Latin music and two Latino musicians? Whereas I could have seen this in the jazz category, I could have seen it in any of the other categories, not necessarily Latin jazz. Respond to that thought, please, if you have a minute.
Well, it's interesting because this is something that happens mostly to Hispanic musicians, where when they see the name right away, they put us in a category of Latin jazz. It doesn't happen with like if you see a jazz musician from Japan or from Italy, it doesn't happen to them. They don't put them into the Italian or like tarantella, category. So, but I guess it's the same for Miguel. Like when we were making the record, we weren't really thinking of any categories. We were just playing, and like just bringing all of our background into it, which borrows from all kinds of music. Like I think Miguel and I, we have like a very similar background, not only Latin jazz or Latin music, but also jazz and Brazilian music and classical. And so we just bring all those influences in, and we're, we're not really thinking about it, And honestly, I didn't think that recording was gonna win, So I didn't even go to a ceremony, and I think Miguel wasn't even gonna go either. Like he went because his daughter made him go.
Yeah, you had to wear the tuxedo, Miguel. You had to wear the
One way,
tuxedo.
that's one way to put it. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Luis and I, we've been making records for a long time, and like I said, most of the records that we made in the past, they've been really conceptual things, really composed and produced things, and many of them have been nominated too. It's really hard to predict something like this. This
Mm-hmm.
was my 12th nomination.
Mm.
So it's hard to predict something like this. It's just, it has to get to a point where like you're making music just for the sake of like bettering yourself and offering something else to the listener, and not being contempt about where you are, but trying to find new challenges and new doors for expression. I mean, of course, I mean it's an amazing recognition, and we're both really really happy. But I'll be lying if I said that this is the reason why we make music. I mean, this
Mm-hmm.
is
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
we make music because we love it. We've always had, and in terms of categories, you know I think it's obvious to say that Luis and I, we function mostly as within a jazz context, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the language that we use to improvise, the language that we use to interact, that comes mostly from a jazz context. But also, it's hard to deny that, like Luis mentioned, a lot of our background is in Latin American music, and we're both from Latin American countries, so we
Mm-hmm.
grew up with a lot of this music, and a lot of what we like to do is mix these elements, like
Mm-hmm.
put these elements together as a reflection of our true personas, because this is really what we are. We're jazz musicians from Latin America. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean that I would categorize our music solely as Latin jazz. I would say that we're Latin jazz musician making music that has influences from Latin America, but also many others, like Luis mentioned, some classical, some many things. Like most musicians these days, I feel
Yeah.
like
Oh, for
we
sure.
we we reflect the world that we're living, and we reflect our interests. But how, I wouldn't necessarily say that that the category this category necessarily defines us or a lot of the other people in
Hmm.
the category as well. I think is a way for these institutions to kind of put stuff within a context and say, okay, so we'll put this folks in this group. uh, um, we're very grateful for the recognition. I won't lie, and I think it's really positive. But we'll just kind of keep making music and keep kind of pushing it, and trying to find ourselves through the music.
Well, we're happy and honored that you would receive such a recognition. Anytime any of you receive any kind of recognition, for us is a celebration. So I don't care if they had put you in a category that had Latin rock or whatever, and you won it. I would have said yes. They won a Grammy. Good, they were recognized. But I just want to make sure that people understand that you are musicians first and foremost, who obviously have roots in Latin America, and in particular Venezuela and Puerto Rico. But your mind and your soul, when it comes to music, is much broader than that. Miguel, one time I interviewed you, tuvimos una conversación. I asked you at the end of the interview, I said, who are some of the musicians I should be looking out for, especially playing saxophone? You said immediately, Edmar Colon and Jonathan Suazo.
Mhm.
And that was like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that. And Edmar Colon is Edmar Colon, who happens to be a professor now at Berkeley, doing some great things. And Jonathan Suazo, who did, Ricardo, which is doing some great things as well. So I guess your eye for talent is really an eye for talent, because those are two that you mentioned way back when, and look where they are now. Are the musicians now that you're still teaching now at MIT and doing some things at Berkeley, también para ti, Luis, are there young musicians who you are looking at and saying, keep your eye out on this particular one, two, three, or four musicians that, in my mind, are going to do some great things? Both of you. Luis, empiezo contigo. ¿Hay algún músico
Go ahead,
joven que
go
tú
ahead,
veas?
Professor. No, go ahead.
Sure. There are a few that I've had the pleasure of having my ensembles. Like I will mention, for example, there is a young bass player named Joe Acampora, and he was in my ensemble maybe a year ago, and he was actually 17. And I was just like, wow, this guy sounds really, really great. And we had the opportunity of play some of Miguel's music in my ensemble, and he was just nailing everything, you know. And there is also a guy from Trinidad that plays the steel pan, named Luke, and I'm forgetting his last name. But man, he was great. He was great. Like I'm sure those two guys are gonna be doing some stuff in the future.
Miguel.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. I mean, it's really hard to keep up with the talent and the hunger, you know, because there's a lot of
Mm,
hunger.
mm,
A lot of musicians really hungry to get better, really hungry to play. I mean, over the years, I've interacted both. I mean, now I'm at MIT, but before when I was at NEC or like when I was in Manhattan School of Music, so many young musicians. I mean, I would have to mention Varun Das, an amazing drummer who's played with our band a couple
Mhm.
times. Gabriel Chacarri, the great pianist from Venezuela, also coming up. Nicola Caminiti on the saxophone. Juan Villalobos, also from Venezuela, who plays the vibraphone. There's so many now at Berkeley. I've gotten to interact a chance to interact with some really amazing, talented saxophonist Juan Saus, who's from Spain, who's also an amazing composer. Senyo Shimura, a great saxophonist, really talented
Mhm.
guy from Japan. I mean, it's like I said, it's hard to keep up because I feel like, especially when you teach, there's always that connection, you know, with the younger generation, and you see, you know, I mean, you see a lot of musicians, but once in a while, you're like, yes, this person is got it. You know, there's also a really talented composer at Berkeley. Now she's going to Manhattan School. Shiju Fang,
mm,
amazing, really like crafty and really amazing composer. So it's great to see, you know, when you see younger generations talented, but also hunger. You know, just like the
mm.
hunger to get better and constantly evolve, asking always the right questions. You know, going for it. So it's inspiring.
No, I'm so happy. You're making my heart smile interior because I love the fact that there are young people still passionate about creating art and particular music because there are others, you know, elders who say, "Why are you going into music? There's no future in music. It's not going to be a business proposition. It's going to pay off. You're not going to get a career, et cetera, et cetera." But like you say, the young people that I meet, and you know, Eggy's one who has introduced me to a whole bunch of young people. And I sit there and I go, your word is the one that I come away with. They are really hungry to share what they're creating. And it's beautiful stuff that they put out there. It's just like amazing. So I'm going to note those names. So when I come across them, I'm going to say, Miguel told me to watch out, Luis told me to watch out, etc. Tenemos saludos para aquí, para ustedes, Tom Ehrlich out of California says,
Oh
Yay!
yeah.
great seeing
Love.
and hear you, Miguel. Luis and say, is the recording available on CD or vinyl? So the recording I know is available on CD because I've got it right there.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
on vinyl as well? Is it on
Not
vinyl?
on vinyl yet. No,
Okay.
we're still considering it.
Okay. There you go. So you can
Tom,
pick it up.
we're gonna see you at the Monterey Jazz Fest in September. We'll save a copy for you.
There you go, Tom. You heard it. So let's see what we have in the background. Let's put some volume up. I love the love that comes out of this recording in totality. Every single song is a bolero, of course, and you associate bolero with the emotion of love. But when you hear it in this kind of combo of just you two, it takes it to a level that's very intimate and at the same time very close to the heart. We have a comment from Tom who says thank you, and he's looking forward to seeing you both in Monterey. So that was one of the compositions that you picked for this particular album, in which we are featuring next Saturday. As I mentioned to the audience, both Miguel and Luis will be performing one show at the Regatta Bar, and that's on the 20th of April. And another one of the songs on the album is this one right here that you're going to listen to a little bit. Wait a minute. This is En La Soledad. There it is. I misspoke. There it is. When I think about this song, I think about Tito Rodriguez and his version of this song, which was the one that I first heard and fell in love with immediately and danced to it so many times, como joven, bailando al sonido de Tito Rodríguez cantando En La Soledad. Parte de la propuesta musical. Aquellos que estén viendo el programa, que vivan en el área de Boston, sepan que el próximo sábado, Luis y Miguel estarán en el Regatta Bar a las 7:30, un show especial, dúo, solamente ellos dos, Miguel en saxofón, Luis en el piano. Al escoger estas canciones, me imagino que tuvieron varias conversaciones, ¿no? Porque tienen aquí, you've got, let me see, on this particular album you picked 7 songs, and like Luis said in the beginning, you could probably do 20 albums. Just there's so much, the canon of boleros runs deep. I mean, decades and decades and decades of boleros. Did you find yourself having to put some on the side and say, not this time around, let's shelve them, let's leave them on the bookshelf and let's just do these? Did that happen, Miguel, Luis?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's happened. I mean, we had, like we said, we have a whole list. You know, I was like, yeah, maybe for the next one, or like we got to think about. Because a lot of what happens too is like I said, most of this repertoire, or maybe just all of it, just spans from conversations that we have. Like, how about this song? Or like we'll be listening to a record. Oh, that's such a great song. And then we start like thinking about, oh, we could do this. Maybe we could try it in this key, or we could try to do this in the beginning, or or maybe we need something like this. We need something a little faster, a little slower, and this key, and major, minor, kind of thing. But also, there's a lot of songs that we love. And then we start talking about the songs, and it was like, yeah, but that wouldn't be, like a lot of songs, they're not the same without the lyrics,
Right.
Realize like the form, instrumentally, the form is not as effective. So it's like, yeah, that song won't work because the form is for example, if the harmonic progression is more repetitive, and the melody is repetitive, but the lyrics change. So without the lyrics, it loses some of its impact. So that happens a lot too. And we're like, oh, we should try, and then we try. It's like, yeah, it's not the same because it's missing, But for this song, it's funny you made that you confused the two names because that happens to us all.
That's good. Yeah.
It happens to us like basically every gig. We have to say, is it the one in G major or is it the one in B flat? Because one in La Oscuridad, one's in La Soledad.
Yeah.
But with these two songs, we really just wanted to tap into Tito Rodriguez's repertoire, of course, and he has so many great songs. These two, they kind of, they jumped out because of the sequence. The harmonic sequence really worked great, and the way the melody works with the harmony, and we could kind of approach them in different ways. So we were thinking more about repertoire and more about, okay, so what else can we do that's maybe different than some of the other stuff that we have.
Luis, como pianista, me imagino que para ti, no sé, pero me imagino que en cierto modo tocar en dúo como es más una liberación de músicos, ¿no? En el sentido que no es solamente tocando acompañamiento, sino que tú estás tocando melodía, improvisando, acompañamiento a Miguel. O sea, que es diferente tocar a dúo que tocar en un grupo, un conjunto, un big band, lo que sea.
Oh yeah, I mean there is a lot more freedom, where especially when it comes to your solo because it's only you, so you can take the music anywhere. But then you have to be careful not to go so far that then you cannot get back. Um, but yeah, for me, it's so liberating. You can like choose the tempo. You can make it just a little slower or a little faster, and then come back to the original tempo. It's really great. And also, when we go to the gigs with this particular project, there's no, especially for me, there's no stress. A lot of the times we get there like 5 minutes before the gig, with no sound check, and then I just feel like, okay, cool, I'm just gonna play, just gonna. So there's no music, shit music involved or anything, and we try to keep it like that. But yeah, for me as a pianist, it's so liberating, in a way, and also a lot of this music, believe it or not, like songs maybe like Caballo Viejo, even though I grew up listening to that song, I think I'd never played it before. And when Miguel mentioned that to me, like I just sat at the piano and basically just played the harmony because I know it so well, So and I know like some different harmonies that you can play, So sometimes you play this, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work. But there are like so many ways that you can go about with those songs, and then you just gotta choose one, and then just go there, and So it's cool. It's cool actually.
No, to me, it sounds like it's so organic in the sense that it just comes naturally from both of you. And here's an example where you're talking about. Listen to this, folks. Another one of the classics from the Latin American songbook that we're listening to on this afternoon with my two guests, Miguel Zenón and Luis Perdomo. They'll be performing, as I said before, this coming Saturday at the Regatta Bar. El Arte del Bolero Volume 2 is the title of the album, and this is a sequel to the first one that they recorded during the pandemic, El Arte del Bolero. So the songbook is one in which we've already established is vast, it's deep, it's varied, and it's forever. At the same time, I would say that for the listener, I think it's another opportunity, at least from my perspective, for us to embrace these songs that we grew up with, right? Because as I mentioned before, when I heard En La Soledad right away, I thought about Tito Rodriguez and the other songs that he had, Paula Se, people who grew up listening to Paula Se. But I think this gives us another opportunity to revisit, re-examine, re-embrace songs that were very much part of our soundtrack for our life. Did you find yourself doing that when you were playing this music? Did it take you back to a certain moment of your life where you said, "Oh man, I remember that under these circumstances"? How was it playing it now compared to what you heard when you were young or whatever? Both of you, whoever wants to jump in.
All right. Well, yeah, definitely. And I think I've said this before in some other interviews that at least when I'm playing Paula Se, Like I totally see my brother like washing his car, like and listening to that really loud in the car, with all the doors open and like washing the car, and like it just takes me to a point in my life when there was no bills to pay, like you went to the kitchen and there was food there that you didn't have to buy. So it was very, and the whole family was together. So it definitely takes me back to those times. Some of the other songs, like for example, this one Motivos, like even though I grew up listening to that one too, like it takes me back to a time when I was playing at this place called Juan Sebastian Bar in Caracas, Venezuela. I used to play that song all the time there, you know. So yeah, it definitely it happens with jazz also, Like sometimes when I listen to like certain songs, it just takes me back to a certain point in life.
Yeah, no, I agree that one of the most powerful things about music is its capacity to inflect this really powerful feelings of nostalgia, and how it could connect you to an event, to a person, to a feeling that's of course you can share with others, but in many ways it's really personal, right? We all have a very personal connection with a song, with a solo, with the sound, so it's a lot of fun, especially with songs like this. These songs have been around for a long time, many of them before our time, so it's amazing to imagine, to think about our own memories, and then imagine the memories of so many other people who might come to a concert and hear, this, or hear Silencio and say, wow, mi abuelita me tocaba esa canción en la casa, or, it's music is powerful that way. It could really take you places. It could really take you beyond the notes, beyond the sounds, and go into the psyche, into the memory, into the nostalgia, into feelings that are so connected to us personally. It's one of the reasons why we do this. It's one of the reasons why we share, and how we
Hmm.
connect with others is
Hmm.
by connecting through this shared experience, or this shared sort of vehicles for experience.
Yeah, music is very much the soundtrack of our life. It is the soundtrack of our life. Like you said, all the emotions when we fall in love, when we're in love, when we're sad, when we're ill, when we're mourning, when we have a breakup with somebody, whatever it is, when we're driving in the car, when we're washing cars, when we're cooking, when we're, whatever it is, it's part of our life, and it's deeply rooted. I love the fact, and I've always respected you two in particular, but other musicians who reimagine our music. And by that, what I'm saying is that you don't look at the music as being, okay, this is the way it was written, this is the way it was played, this is the way you play it. But you reimagine and saying, what if? What if? Right? It's always like, what if we were to do it like this? What if we were to do it with this type of rhythm? What if we were to do it with this type of combination of sounds or instruments, et cetera, et cetera? So that, for me, is also another way of giving life to those legendary and iconic pieces of music that we've heard over and over again, because then that means that they have life forever, right? It's not like they were recorded in 1950 and that's the only time that song would be heard because it fit for 1950. It was recorded in 1950, but it's a song forever because musicians like you will now make it fresh and give it a twist, et cetera, et cetera. Por aquí hay un comentario, there's a comment. Javier Marín, mira lo que dice Javier Marín de Venezuela. Juan Sebastian Bar, one of my favorite jazz points en Caracas. Así que le traíste memoria a nuestro amigo Javier.
Wow, yeah.
Javier Marín, le traíste la memoria de el Juan Sebastian Bar, que fue el jangueo allá en Caracas para aquellos que eran los
Yeah,
amantes. Los amantes.
it's still open. They have changed their policy. Right now they play
Ajá,
more salsa. But
ajá.
when I was there, I used to play from Monday to Saturdays from 9:30 p.m. until 3:30 a.m. We used to play 4 sets, and it was a place where I got to meet Chucho Valdez and the whole Irakere. I used to play with those guys and
Mm-hmm.
jam with them, and also Gonzalo Rubalcaba, and people like that. That was like the place to go back then in the late '80s and also like late '70s, but that was before my time. But like late
Mm-hmm.
'70s, '80s, and early '90s, that was the place for jazz, in Caracas.
There we go. Escuchemos la versión de Caballo Viejo. beautiful rendition of the classic Caballo Viejo, written by the great composer Simón Díaz, this time interpreted by Miguel Zenón and Luis Perdomo. You know, Miguel and Luis, when I hear this album, it sounds to me, I mentioned the word soundtrack. To me, it is a soundtrack. It's very much a soundtrack of our life. But it could be a soundtrack for countless movies, countless soap operas, telenovelas on Netflix or on Telemundo. It doesn't matter because it's so emblematic of what it represents as far as those of us who are from Spanish-speaking countries in Latin America or the Caribbean. Have either you two worked on soundtracks for movies or anything like that? Miguel, have you done anything like that? Have you worked on soundtracks?
Not directly, you know. I mean, there's been a couple of collaborations, but not directly. I feel a little. I'm a little scared of that scenario. Not people working on it and how much work it takes to put something like that together. But you know, I think it's something that we think about a lot as musicians. You know, the images that the music portrays, and I think one of the great things about the folks who are really good at film scoring and putting together things like that is that you can connect things to images, you know, and experiences. So I mean, it'll be a great opportunity. I'm a little scared of it, but it'll be great.
I would welcome a day when I read the titles at the end of the movie as it scrolls up. Musical soundtrack by Miguel Zenón and Luis Perdomo, because that, you're right, it is a challenge, right? Because you have to feed off what the movie is saying, what the movie's showing, what we're seeing visually, but also with everything of that nature. So you're right. But I think you're both up to it. I would applaud that opportunity. I think that I'm going to put it up in the universe for you, Miguel. I'm going to put it up in the universe for you, Luis. A soundtrack for a movie, which would be a phenomenal opportunity. Here's another saludo para ti. Mira, hablando de David Antonio Rosado. Saludos, José, para los maestros Miguel Zenón y Luis Perdomo, en parte de David Antonio Rosado, que se gradúa ya en el mes de mayo. En el tiempo que nos queda, porque yo sé que ustedes tienen una agenda bien ocupada, además de este tipo de proyecto, ¿qué otras cosas tienen que vienen por ahí en el futuro no muy lejano? Miguel.
Pues mira, para nuestra suerte, vamos a estar presentando bastante del proyecto del arte del bolero ahora, tanto en la primavera, en el verano como en el otoño. Tenemos ya varios compromisos. Eso nos tiene bien contentos porque podemos compartir la música con el público. También we're also, as you know, me and Luis have been playing quartet for a long time, and we have a band with Hans Klavisting on bass, Henry Cole on drums. And we're also preparing to make a live recording at the Village Vanguard, which will be in September. We're excited about that. I'm particularly excited about writing some new music for the band and trying stuff out. And then we got a couple of things with the band in the summer. We're going to Europe, and in the fall we're going to be in South America. So I mean, it's a good time, you know, because I feel like it's always great to play with my musical brothers and to get stuff happening. So from that side of it, I'm just excited, you know.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. Luis, you're also from time to time teaching, which is another part of what makes you two very special angels, because you're sharing your knowledge, your experience, your creativity with another generation of up-and-coming living angels who will continue the legacy of great music moving forward. And I just appreciate the fact that we'll have a chance to be with you in person. Later on, when I finish this, I'm going to be leaving to enjoy one of your contemporaries, the great Ricardo Pons with Jazz Boricua. They're playing here in the Boston area today, and Angel Matos on the piano, and of course Hector Matos on drums, and Jorge Rodriguez on bass. So it's going to be fun to see them. So a lot of music coming this way.
Our best is those are our brothers.
Yeah.
I will definitely do that. Pues let's end this with this song, and I just want to congratulate both of you for this great work that you're doing. Continued success, and please continue to share this music. I don't have to tell you how many times I've told you this, but I will always say it when I'm in your presence. Both of you are very special. You're living angels. It's through your music that you bring joy, peace, and happiness to our hearts, and love and harmony to our lives. And for that, we will always be thankful. And we're blessed that you're amongst us and that you're two of the many living angels who are creating this great music, especially now during these times that we're, you know, there's a divided nation. There's conflict around the world. There's all these things happening that are challenging humanity, but I think you bring light, and that's the important thing. As long as there's light where there's darkness, light will overcome darkness, and you two are instrumental in bringing that light. So we're looking forward to seeing you next weekend, where you will light up the Regatta Bar, and all of us will be in your presence. So again, I want to thank you, Luis, and I want to thank you, Miguel, and thank you for taking time to be with us this afternoon.
Gracias,
Thank you,
Jose.
Jose. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Y muchas bendiciones. Que Dios los bendiga, ambos.
Okay,
Gracias.
igualmente. All right.
Gracias. So there you had my two guests for this afternoon, Luis Perdomo and Miguel Zenón. As I said before, they will be performing next weekend at the Regatta Bar. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the program, I have to leave because I am emceeing at the Chroma at the Arlington Street Church, where Jazz Boricua is performing. And I mentioned some of the musicians who will be there. Ricardo Pons will be on saxophone and flute. You're going to have Angel David Matos, director, on keyboards, and Hector Matos on drums, Jorge Rodriguez on bass. So I'm going to scoot out of here so I can make it in time for their performance. But I want to thank each and every one of you for being part of today's program. David Cantrell says, come back to Tucson. Let's see if they go back to Tucson. I'll find out for you, David, okay? In the meantime, have a great week. I'm going to remind you again, you can listen to Con Salsa on demand, wbur.org/Consalsa. And that way you will have an opportunity to hear the 5 hours of programming that I did yesterday. It's on for 5 days from Monday to, well, actually 7 days, Monday through Sunday. And that way you can enjoy the 5 hours of programming. Para ustedes, le doy la más expresiva gracias por aquí. Yari Pérez Marín dice, great show. Thank you so much. Gracias a ustedes. Thank you. I hope that you enjoyed that. And from time to time, like I said before, we have invited guests that make these programs very special. Next weekend, my guest will be none other than Michel Camilo. The program will be from 4 to 6 p.m. He'll be performing in Boston April 27th and 28th. Solo performance, just him on piano. And we'll have the opportunity to speak with him for the first time here on Con Salsa Live on Facebook and YouTube. In the background, the sounds of Luis Perdomo and Miguel Zenón, once again, one of the beautiful songs off their new album, this one titled Mucho Corazón, as we listen to this song while we leave you with the very best in Afro-Latin music. Some beautiful music here this evening. I love you. Take care of each other. God bless you. Until the next time, please tune in next Saturday, 90.9 FM, WBUR Con Salsa, from 10 p.m. until 3 o'clock in the morning on the internet, WBUR.org. Again, you can download on demand last night's program, WBUR.org/Con Salsa. Until then, I love you. Take care of each other, please. Hasta el próximo fin de semana. En nombre mío, José Mazó. Gracias por la atención prestada. Y gracias a Luis Perdomo y Miguel Zenón por ser nuestros invitados en la tarde de hoy. Hasta la próxima. Los quiero mucho. Bendiciones a cada uno de ustedes. Cuídense, por favor.